A fish with its mouth closed never gets caught. That sentence is your first rule of wealth. Say less. Protect more. Imagine walking through a dark forest. Every rustle could be a deer or a hunter or a hungry animal that follows noise. Your money, your plans, your edge, they are like light in that forest. The louder you shine, the sooner something comes looking. Wealth attracts attention the same way light attracts moths. Not because people are evil, but because humans are wired. Envy, opportunism, and a simple economics of information create predators out of friends, partners, and strangers. The smartest investors understand this. In the Buffett tradition, not as a literal quote from him, but in the way his long-term, low-profile accumulation is often described. Secrecy is a tool. It's not secrecy for secrecy's sake. It's strategic privacy, a set of behaviors that protect what you have, what you plan to do, and what you mean to give away. I'm going to give you 5 practical secrets, the shadow code, that you must adopt if you want to preserve wealth, avoid needless conflict, and keep your life from becoming a target. These aren't hacks or get-rich promises. They are survival laws, psychological, social, and economic rules that work in ordinary life. If this is speaking to you, hit subscribe and save this video. I'll link a printable shadow code checklist so you don't have to remember all 5 on your own. First, understand a couple of simple laws that explain why silence matters. There's the crab bucket effect. When one crab tries to climb out, the others pull it back. In human terms, when someone you know suddenly reveals a windfall, their social circle often reacts in ways that drag them down. Requests, resentment, and shifting expectations. Then there's price discrimination. When sellers learn you can pay more, they will charge you more. Tell a contractor you're wealthy, and suddenly the estimate changes. Tell a banker or a salesperson your net worth, and you'll be offered different terms, not always better ones. Treat wealth like a game of imperfect information. The fewer people who know the true state of your resources and plans, the fewer advantages they have to extract value from you, emotionally, socially, and financially. With that in mind, here are the 5 secrets one by one. Each comes with a psychology behind it, concrete examples, and tactical language you can use immediately. Secret 1. Never reveal your exact net worth outside of a spouse and your trusted tax or legal advisor. Why it matters. When others know your numbers, you trigger what I call the audit trap. People who previously offered support become auditors. They tally who gave you a hand, who deserves what, and suddenly there's a moral ledger where none existed. Friends start suggesting investments. Family members fixate on inheritance. Contractors and service providers change behavior based on assumed ability to pay. Once private numbers enter public conversation, expectations calcify and relationships shift. Example: a couple in a suburban circle casually mentions a 7-figure windfall at a dinner. Within months, a contractor who once did small jobs for a friend starts quoting higher rates. A cousin reappears with a desperate loan request. The conversation that felt celebratory at the table becomes a series of demands and assumptions. What to do? Keep numbers confidential. Share them only with a very small circle, your partner, your certified tax professional, your estate attorney, or a trusted financial planner who has a fiduciary duty. Use vague, non-specific language when pressed in social contexts. Here are short, honest, non-deceptive lines you can use. Real sentences you can copy when someone asks about your finances. I prefer not to discuss numbers publicly. I keep that between myself and my advisor. I'm doing fine, but I don't share financial details. Hope you understand. I focus on work and family, not net worth. That's private. These are truthful and respectful. They deflect without lying. They are the core of what I call strategic poverty, appearing ordinary to avoid becoming a target. Strategic poverty isn't fakery, it's a protective posture. You can be generous in private, but modest in public. Secret 2. Never announce your next move until it's done. Why it matters. The brain loves telling people about plans. Talking produces an early dopamine hit, like a small victory. But premature celebration kills execution. When you broadcast a plan, you invite interference, second-guessing, and a host of logistical complications. Competitors adjust. Collaborators change expectations. You allow others to shape the narrative before you've acted. Example, an entrepreneur tells her network she's about to pivot the company. Investors and employees begin to react. A competitor accelerates a product release. Some team members mentally check out because they think the pivot will change their role. The founder loses momentum and focus. The plan becomes someone else's chessboard. Tactical approach. Incubate ideas in private. Use a tight circle or a journal. Build quietly. When you must talk, for hiring, fundraising, or regulatory reasons, share only what is necessary and only when the move is committed. Silence is not passive, it's strategic patience. Phrases to use when you're asked about a plan before you're ready. We're exploring a few options. I'm not sharing specifics yet. I'm focused on execution and will share updates once things are finalized. Not ready to discuss timelines publicly, I'll let you know when it's concrete. Those lines protect momentum and keep external pressure from seeping in. Secret 3. Never share your edge. Why it matters. In investing and business, edge is your advantage, a method, idea, or insight that generates above-average returns. Once you publicize an edge, it becomes less effective. Think of the Coca-Cola recipe. The company persists because it kept its formula secret. In markets, edges are eroded by copying, regulatory attention, or arbitrage. Economists call this the efficient market principle. When information spreads, prices adjust and the edge shrinks. Example, a trader publishes a step-by-step guide to a profitable strategy. Overnight, imitators flood the market, liquidity changes, and transaction costs increase. What was once a predictable edge becomes a crowded trade. Returns fall. How to protect an edge? There are honest, above-board ways to monetize knowledge without revealing the mechanics that make it work. Teach principles, not formulas. Sell case studies and outcomes rather than a checklist that anyone can follow. Use high-level frameworks and charge appropriately for deeper private consulting. Package your knowledge so that public exposure creates demand without destroying the performance that creates that demand. Practical tactics. Share the why and the ethical guardrails, not the how, in full detail. If you write or teach, present sanitized case studies that highlight results but obscure the precise execution. Use layered disclosure, public summaries, paid workshops for deeper strategy, and private engagements for bespoke implementation. Remember, teaching everything for free can be a moral good, but it can also eliminate your competitive advantage. Choose carefully. Secret 4. Don't disclose inheritance details to heirs early. Why it matters. Promised wealth can ruin motivation. If children or heirs are told there's an inheritance coming, they may underinvest in their own careers or become entangled in status competition. Money that arrives without merit or accountability often creates entitlement, sibling conflict, and family legal disputes. Example, a family announces a large trust that will be split equally among siblings at age 30. One sibling treats it as a fallback, taking fewer career risks and being less entrepreneurial. Another, who worked through hardship, burns with unfairness. Relationships fray. When money is transferred too early or too transparently, it acts like a loud magnet for resentment. Tactical approach. Calibrated provision. This is a design problem. You want to provide security and opportunity without stripping responsibility and drive. Use incentive-based structures, milestone distributions, educational stipends, or matching funds that require effort. Keep the mechanics and estimates private, shared only with your estate attorney and perhaps a trustworthy family fiduciary. If you feel a moral obligation to prepare heirs, teach values and skills instead of numerical expectations. Practical, non-legal suggestions. Favor staged distributions tied to education, employment, or service. Consider trusts managed by independent trustees who can enforce conditions. Communicate values rather than numbers. Talk about stewardship, work ethic, and purpose. Quick legal caveat. This is general guidance, not legal or tax advice. For estate design, consult qualified professionals. But the social rule is simple. Keep the scales and spreadsheets out of family dinner conversations. Secret 5. Don't broadcast your charity or your grievances. Why it matters. There's a difference between public philanthropy aimed at mobilizing support and ego-driven charity that seeks applause. Broadcasting every good deed corrupts motive and invites comparisons. Who gave more? Publicized charity becomes a performance metric, an outer scorecard, rather than a private conscience. Conversely, broadcasting grievances, lists of slights, lists of people who owe you, turns your life into a ledger that traps you in resentment. Example, someone loudly tweets every donation and expects social proof in return. They become judged by quantity, not impact. Another posts every offense, workplace slights, betrayals, grudges, and discovers that airing grievances multiplies social friction and reduces trust. Tactical approach. Practice the inner scorecard. Do good quietly when possible. Use anonymous giving channels, donor-advised funds, anonymous transfers, community foundations, or direct actions without public fanfare. If you need to be public for strategic reasons, fundraising, advocacy, or building a cause brand, be transparent about goals and outcomes, not about the size of your gift. When you do reveal philanthropy, focus on impact metrics, not ego metrics. When you have a grievance, resolve privately or through mediation rather than turning it into social content. The less you amplify your moral balance sheet, the less you invite scrutiny and moral accounting from others. Now let's unpack each secret more deeply with stories and practical rules so these ideas, stop being abstract. On the audit trap, people who see numbers start narrating your life. At a family reunion, someone casually asks about your investments. You give a rough idea. Suddenly, the aunt who used to complain about modest housekeeping starts comparing your decisions to her own life plan. Old friends who once asked for nothing now propose deals, loans, and partnerships. This is the audit trap in live action. Once your number is public, it becomes a benchmark. People assume entitlement or moral claim. That's why the first rule is surgical. Do not reveal exact net worth. But there's nuance. Transparency has a place. If you run a business with investors, certain disclosures are required. If you're raising funds, investors will do due diligence. The rule applies to social and informal contexts. Keep numbers off casual conversations, social media, family dinners, and even semi-public groups where gossip travels. On price discrimination, sellers charge different prices based on perceived ability to pay. Price discrimination is not sinister. It's market reality. If a roofer senses you can pay more, repairs cost more. If a dentist knows you have a premium insurance plan, they might suggest more expensive options first. That's why you don't advertise your wallet. When you appear ordinary, you get ordinary service prices. When you signal wealth, you invite premium charges and clever upsells. Tactic: use non-hostile vagueness. Let service providers quote based on scope of work and standards, not on perceived wealth. Ask for itemized bids. Compare multiple offers. Use your strategic poverty posture to negotiate from a position of normalcy. On premature celebration and incubation, the quiet builds momentum. When you tell others you'll climb a ladder, the achievement often feels half complete. The satisfaction of telling reduces the drive to do the climbing. Think of the athlete who declares a future victory on social media. Sometimes the performance fails. Silence preserves friction. Friction keeps you honest. Incubating ideas privately, writing them, testing them, iterating, prevents noise from diluting commitment. Practical incubation method. Step 1. Journal the idea for 30 days without telling anyone. Step 2. Create a one-page execution plan. Test a small private experiment. Step 3. Only when the experiment achieves repeatable results do you share the outcome, not the early-stage plan. On protecting your edge, the economics of exclusivity. Your unique insight is like a recipe. A public recipe commoditizes the product. Exclusivity preserves value. There are ethical ways to share knowledge and still keep your advantage. Offer frameworks that explain why something works. Sell tailored execution or coaching. Many creators structure content with a free tier, high-level principles, and a paid tier, bespoke application. The paid tier can be a consulting relationship where the mechanism is customized and therefore not easily replicated. On inheritance, the paradox of gift and motivation. We want to protect our children from hardship, but also want them to be resilient. The paradox: too much promised wealth reduces motivation. Too little can leave them stranded. The solution is to design structures that give purpose as well as support. Teach money management early, give small, meaningful responsibilities, and avoid big dollar announcements that become targets. Design patterns that tend to work. Staggered access, smaller distributions with later larger ones tied to milestones. Purpose-directed funds for education, business seed capital, or home purchase. Earn-in models, matching funds that require beneficiaries to earn a portion. Again, consult professionals for implementation. The ethical point is this: privacy in inheritance protects relationships and encourages growth. On private charity, how to give without performing. Some donors prefer anonymous giving. Others use foundations to channel capital efficiently. If you want public impact, partner with credible nonprofits and be measured about publicity. When you give anonymously, you avoid social accounting that can corrode relationships. The inner scorecard, measuring yourself on private standards, keeps your motives pure. The shadow code, a compact creed for quiet power. These 5 rules are not separate tricks. They form a code. The shadow code is simple and repeatable. 1. Protect your numbers. 2. Protect your plans. 3. Protect your edge. 4. Protect your heirs. 5. Protect your virtue. Follow them, and you harness a psychological and economic advantage. Silence compounds. The fewer leaks you have, the more options you keep. Wealth is not simply about accumulation, it's about preserving optionality, protecting relationships, and avoiding predators of many kinds. Quiet power is practical power. Here are a few short vignettes to show how these rules work together. Vignette: the small-town lottery winner. A mechanic in a small town wins a meaningful lottery sum. He immediately posts it to social media. Friends arrive with investment ideas. A contractor who used to do work for him quotes a much higher price when he renovates his home. Family relationships strain as cousins press for loans. Within 3 years, the money is mostly gone, and the mechanic, who initially wanted to secure his family's future, finds himself fighting fires. Had he kept the win private, split it into investments, and set up private philanthropic gifts, the social pressure would have been far less. The money would have had a better chance to do what money does best: give options and stability. Vignette: the startup founder who screamed a pivot. A founder wrote a blog post announcing a major strategic pivot and a hiring plan. Competitors read it, adjusted, and launched similar moves. The founder's team got distracted by recruitment expectations and misaligned incentives. Execution stalled. A founder who incubates plans privately and launches with evidence of traction avoids unnecessary countermoves and preserves bargaining power. These are life-sized examples. They show the mechanisms. Information begets behavior. Control the information, and you control the environment. Practical checklist: actions you can take this week. Audit your social media. Remove or archive posts that reveal financial milestones, house tours, or big purchases. Tighten privacy settings. Limit friend lists to people you actually know. Draft 3 strategic poverty lines you will use when pressed about money. Practice them until they feel natural. Create an incubation notebook. For every new idea, write a 30-day experiment before telling anyone. Review who knows your numbers. If more than your partner and your advisors know, consider rolling back disclosure. For your estate, schedule a confidential meeting with a fiduciary advisor to discuss non-public options. Ask about trusts, staged distributions, and independent trustees. This is not legal advice. Consult a qualified professional for specifics. Decide on a charity practice, public fundraising or private giving. Choose one and design a repeatable process. 2 small economic terms. Explain plainly: price discrimination. Sellers changing prices based on what they think you can pay. In real life, it's the mechanic who quotes higher because he thinks you can afford it. You can guard against it by getting multiple bids and by not signaling wealth. Efficient market effect. Simple version: when an advantage is known, others copy it, and the advantage shrinks. If everyone knows your secret trick, it stops being a trick. Protect your edge by teaching frameworks, not step-by-step playbooks. A few final behavioral tips, tactical and immediate. When friends ask for favors tied to your money, respond with kindness and boundaries. I can't help with that right now, but I'm happy to introduce you to someone who may. Referrals protect relationships without putting cash on the table. When someone asks direct financial questions at a party, pivot the conversation. Ask about them. People forget to press when they're being listened to. If you want to be generous publicly for a cause, do so with humility and clear impact metrics. Public philanthropy should be about the cause, not your ego. A short note about ethics. Secrecy here is a form of prudence, not a moral defense for selfishness. The Shadow Code is a toolkit for preserving resources so you can do good and live well without becoming a target. It helps you protect relationships and ensures that your giving, your work, and your family legacy are governed by deliberation rather than social pressure. The most powerful people in rooms are often the ones who say the least. Quiet doesn't mean timid. Quiet means deliberate. It means building in the dark forest while others shout their positions to no benefit. It means creating an internal life measured by an inner scorecard instead of social applause. Before I close, a brief recap you can hold in your head. Protect numbers, protect plans, protect edge, protect heirs, protect virtue, practice strategic poverty in speech, incubate privately, monetize knowledge responsibly, structure inheritances to preserve motivation, give anonymously when you can. Final note and call to action. If you want the printable Shadow Code checklist, the 5 rules and the exact phrases you can use in conversation, download it from the link in the description and save this video. Use it as a daily reminder to let your results make the noise. Be the quiet one. Let your results make the noise. Stay disciplined. Stay generous quietly. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll break down how to design an estate plan that preserves family harmony without exposing numbers. Follow for that deep dive and download the checklist to start practicing the Shadow Code today.